Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Jason Anderson. I am President and CEO of Cleantech San Diego, and really happy you're all here today. Cleantech San Diego was launched 14 years ago as a business association to support the development and deployment of clean and renewable energy for the benefit of the economy, the environment, and all members of our community. And obviously, we've seen a lot of progress over the years, but nothing like we are seeing now. Innovators are developing technologies today that will shape the way we generate, transmit, and use energy for our generation and beyond. And we are so fortunate to have many of those innovations being developed right here in San Diego. Today's showcase will give you some insight into these cutting-edge technologies, and I hope you walk away with the appreciation that our clean energy future is in good hands. We have a great lineup for you today, and we appreciate you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us this morning. Before we get started, as always, just a few housekeeping items. If any of you have any questions for our speakers or any of the panelists today, please place them in the Q&A box, not in the chat box, and we will try to get to those questions as part of our moderated panel discussion. We've asked also that the presenters try to go in and answer some of those questions directly, so you may be able to communicate with them directly if you have questions. But again, remember to use the Q&A function and not the chat function. So without further ado, let's get started. You know we like to be on time here, and I'm really honored to introduce our first speaker, Eric Stokes. Eric is the chief of the Energy Deployment and Market Facilitation Office at the California Energy Commission. And under his leadership, the CEC is investing into energy innovation like never before. Eric oversees the CEC's energy innovation ecosystem, which you will hear more about today, and has proven to be an invaluable partner of Cleantech San Diego and the Southern California Energy Innovation Network. Eric, as always, thank you for your support, and the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Jason, and pleasure to be here. Good morning, everyone. So as Jason mentioned, I oversee the Energy Deployment and Market Facilitation Office within the California Energy Commission's Energy Research and Development Division. And kind of in a nutshell, the Energy Research and Development Division is responsible for really taking stock of California's ambitious energy policies and policy priorities, and then going and assess the emerging technology and scientific advancements that can help us achieve a lot of those energy policy goals, and then supporting those through direct funding as well as assistance. And we do that to the tune of about $175 million in new funding each year. For my opening remarks today, I want to talk a little bit about what the CEC has done to support clean energy entrepreneurship the last 5 years. As we look to kind of our energy policy goals, it's really hard to see how we get there, how we get to a decarbonized energy sector with the existing set of technology solutions. And so we're really going to need a number of new technologies and kind of breakthrough technologies to really realize those goals. And really the sector that's going to be most responsible for introducing a lot of those technology solutions is the entrepreneurial sector and the startup sector. The challenge we saw several years ago is that the private sector, and specifically the venture capital sector, saw clean tech energy innovation really as kind of a bad investment. And as we started to kind of do the autopsy on why the venture capital sector, why other private sector investors got out, we identified a number of structural problems that were really preventing entrepreneurs from succeeding in this space and preventing investors from seeing the types of returns and types of investments they need to see to continue to invest in this space. And so since about 2016, we've scaled up a series of programs to really support clean energy entrepreneurship across the state. And I want to just briefly touch upon kind of what these programs are. It starts with CalSeed, which is our first touch point for a lot of the startup companies we work with, and provides a little bit of that funding to give them the runway in really once they spin out of the lab or when they get their footing to start to work their way towards validating proof of concept. And we stage gate these entrepreneurs through another series of programs. Most notably, CalTestBid is a recent entry to the ecosystem. And what this does is it provides vouchers to give access to entrepreneurs to any number of 60 test facilities across the state, mostly housed at the University of California system. We also have another program, Bridge, as these companies start to move beyond the prototype stage and start to think about their pilot demonstrations. The Bridge funding helps them really kind of take that transition prototype to a real-world demonstration. And then the last touch point within our entrepreneurial ecosystem is what we call our RAMP program. And the RAMP program what this helps startup companies do is after they've done a successful few PDU units, it helps them really start to scale up their production to be able to meet customer demand. The RAMP program is also really critical in helping these startup companies demonstrate to the private sector that they can manufacture their technologies at scale, which is a really critical milestone for a lot of these startup companies. The one thing we realized, especially for startups in their journey, is that there's a lot of pitfalls they can run into, especially when we look back 10 years ago and a lot of some of the failures we saw with the clean tech startup sector. And so what we set up was really 4 innovation clusters to really kind of guide these startup companies along their journey. And Cleantech San Diego through the Southern California Innovation Network has really been the one that fostered a lot of those startup companies in kind of the broader San Diego region, which extends into San Bernardino, Imperial, and Riverside. And through these efforts, this ecosystem has supported over 200 startup companies that have gone on to raise over $1.9 billion in private sector follow-on investment. And this doesn't quite tell the whole story, because what this doesn't take into consideration is several of these companies have been acquired by larger corporations, and we typically don't get the valuations behind what those investment deals are worth. So the 1.9 billion we actually think is much greater than what we report. Next slide, Jason. So as we've kind of developed these set of programs, we're also looking ahead to expanding the ecosystem. As we've kind of done our own analysis on what some of the gaps are, we've identified kind of 3 areas that we're going to push forward to in the coming years. One of those is we want to expand the size of what we call the innovation pipeline and start to attract a broader talent pool, specifically from under-resourced communities. One of the things that we found through research and through various studies is that there's a tremendous amount of IP just sitting in research institutions such as the national labs. Just one data point in general, NREL has over 700 technologies that are just waiting there to be commercialized. On the flip side of that is we think there's just an untapped talent pool of entrepreneurial talent, particularly from these more diverse and underrepresented backgrounds. And so a new effort we're going to be launching over the next couple of years is to really create kind of an incubator type program that matches aspiring entrepreneurs with a lot of the IP that's being developed at these research institutions, and to really provide some of the support and services they need to launch a new clean energy venture. The second area where we're really trying to expand the ecosystem, as we pulled a lot of these startup companies through the earlier stages of the innovation pipeline, we're starting to see that there's still additional financing and funding gaps in the later stages. And it's really hard for startup companies to move from your more equity-based investments to more debt-based investments, such as loan programs from institutional investors, even from the Department of Energy's loan programs guaranteed. And so another effort that we're going to be looking to kick up is really thinking about how the CEC can start to bring in some of the catalytic capital to these startup companies that can allow them to go and attract bigger sums of investments from banks, from the Department of Energy's loan programs office, from other institutional investors such as pension funds and insurance providers. The other way we're expanding the ecosystem is really trying to help these startup companies demonstrate bankability and to address a lot of the industry acceptance barriers that they face when trying to sell to OEMs that are going to be primarily the customers for a lot of these technologies. And really, our first effort is really focused on the advanced battery technology. Lithium-ion has been a huge success story over the years in terms of cost reductions, but it's starting to reach its limits as to how much more energy density we can achieve with these batteries. There's also issues around supply chain concerns, safety. The challenge is industry isn't adopting some of these newer technologies at the rate we'd like to see. And at the same time, we've invested in a number of startup companies that are developing better battery technology solutions. So another area we're going to be pushing is to really establish kind of a bankability center that can do a lot of the accelerated testing for these new battery technology startup companies, that can have an established pilot production line so that these startup companies can demonstrate that their solutions can be manufactured, and to really bring a consortium of vehicle and battery OEMs and to really kind of de-risk a lot of these new technologies for their purposes. Next slide, please. So a couple of resources I just want to mention for everyone out there. So the Energy Commission has established kind of 2 websites to really support kind of this broader energy innovation ecosystem. One is what we call Empower Innovation. And Empower Innovation provides a lot of the funding opportunities, not just from the CEC, but from the Department of Energy and other sources of funding for these companies. One of the things with Empower Innovation, though, is it really allows for partnerships. And so if startup companies are looking for partnerships with communities or other industry partners, it provides an opportunity for them to kind of identify who might be interested in partnering on future proposals. Now, the other new website that we just launched last week is what we call Energize Innovation. And so this is really kind of a repository and database of all the investments the CEC has made through its research and development programs. It shows the various projects as well as the innovation partners, the technology developers really behind the technology advancement in these companies. So I encourage everyone just to check those sites out. Next slide, please. I think it's on pause. So that concludes my remarks. I just want to put a quick plug in on December 14th and 15th. We haven't announced it yet, but it should be coming soon. We host an annual EPIC symposium. This will be a virtual symposium over the course of 2 days that we co-host along with the 3 investor-owned utilities. And so I just encourage everyone to be on the lookout for updates and information about that. And thank you.
Well, thank you, Eric, and good morning, everyone. This is Marty Turok. I'd like to welcome you to our 4th annual SCEIN Innovation Showcase. With over 200 RSVPs to our invitation, it already looks like we're on track for our most highly attended event in our 5-year history. And seeing a number of new names on our attendee list, I'd like to preface today's SCEIN company presentations with a little bit of background on our SCEIN Incubator Accelerator and some of the highlights so far this year that have actually led up to this event. As Eric Stokes just mentioned, our SCEIN Incubator is one of the 4 incubator accelerator clusters at the heart of the CEC's entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is bolstered by the CalSeed non-dilutive grant program and the CalTestBed third-party technology evaluation program. Our SCEIN Incubator has responsibility for San Diego, Imperial, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties, and through our parent organization, Cleantech San Diego, and the 9 partners whose logos are displayed across the middle of this slide, we provide entrepreneurs with breakthrough electric energy technologies, just about everything that they need, except for office space and actual seed capital. Although, of course, one of our primary objectives is to assist our member companies in securing funding to grow and scale. Well, by all measures, 2021 has been a banner year for both the SCEIN Incubator and our member companies. And perhaps the best way to tell the tale of 2021 is actually in reverse chronological order. In fact, just last Monday, we issued a press release announcing the graduation of 3 SCEIN companies that have been working with us since back in early 2017. And I'm delighted to report that all 3 are currently selling to multiple customers, have built robust sales pipelines, have raised sufficient capital to support the scaling of their businesses, and are truly driving our goal of market transformation. Aquacycle has a bioelectrochemical treatment technology for ultra-high strength wastewater streams common to the food and beverage and bulk organics storage industries. They secured an additional $4 million in combined bridge and Series A funding earlier this year, with Vopak, a global leader in port tank terminal operations, coming in as the strategic lead investor for their Series A round. And their CEO, Oriana Bretschker, won the Cartier Women's Initiative Science and Technology Pioneer Laureate Award. Nuvve has clearly established their global leadership in the EV charging bidirectional V2G space. They closed their SPAC, they got listed on the NASDAQ exchange, and Nuvve forged a $750 million strategic joint venture called Levo with Stone Peak Partners that will fund a turnkey fleet as a service business model that eliminates the biggest barrier to fleet adoption, which has been the upfront capital to fund the electric vehicles. So indeed, it looks like the VC judges got it right at the last CEC Epic Symposium, where Nuvve and Aquacycle won 3 of the 4 inaugural California Energy Visionary Awards, and SCEIN company igrenEnergi won the grand prize Energy Visionary Award. Our third graduate, Key2 Systems, literally provides the software communications pulse that enables grid operators to know at any given moment in time whether the smart inverter on a PV system, storage battery, or EV charger is providing power to the grid or taking power from the grid. Key2's Rule 21 compliant software is being utilized by SoCal Edison in their EV Charge Ready program, and their DER Grid Action platform is on track for deployments with leading utilities in both California and Hawaii. In addition to these outstanding milestone achievements by our 3 graduates, all of our SCEIN companies that you see circled on this current members slide have secured some level of public or private funding in 2021, or are currently in possession of a term sheet. And when you add our first half 2021 results to complete our first 5-year term of operating the SCEIN program, you can see that in total, our member companies have raised $223 million in follow-on capital, which represents a 50-to-1 ROI on total program costs to date. They've created 362 jobs, and 76% of our member companies have C-suite diversity. And finally, in terms of technology innovation, our companies have had 162 patents approved over the last 5 years. So when we included all of these tangible results in our application for follow-on funding to the CEC, we think we made it pretty easy for them to justify the approval for funding our SCEIN program for another 5 years at the June 9th CEC business meeting. Now, for those of you who attended our annual showcase event last year, you may recall at that point in time, with 17 of our SCEIN companies launching capital raises, we had to conduct our showcase event over the first 3 Tuesdays in November 2020 in order to avoid Zoom fatigue. However, with all of the circled companies on this slide having received some level of funding in 2021, we actually only have 9 SCEIN companies that are currently raising capital, 8 of which will be presenting this morning. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce you to Zach Dobbin, our SCEIN program advisor. He's going to be our MC and moderator for the presentation and Q&A segments of today's showcase. Thanks, Zach.
Well, thank you so much, Marty, for that great presentation, and to Jason and Eric Stokes for the CEC as well for those phenomenal presentations. With that, let's get into kind of the bulk of the event today and the most exciting part. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first presenter today, Phil Kopp of Connectric. He joined the SCEIN program in February of 2017. So with that, we'll turn it over to Phil for his presentation.
Hello. I'm very excited to join you and the rest of the Southern California Energy Innovation Network this morning to present the tremendous progress we've made at Connectric Networks, making the world safer and more sustainable. I'm Philip Kopp, the CEO of Connectric Networks, and have dedicated over 20 years of my life to groundbreaking and innovative technology developments, leading to dozens of patents and multiple companies. This company is the culmination of my experience in sensors, wireless communications, software development, and award-winning products and services into the field based on algorithms that consistently and repeatedly deliver market-leading results. The world is facing a virtually unlimited and exponential amount of risk from climate change and social insecurity. The need to address this risk is beyond urgent, as millions of people around the world are imminently facing death. In part, this is a technical problem, as existing technologies to collect the data and actuate the controls we need to solve these problems are based on old models. Models that are inherently undeployable due to complexity and security issues in today's modern theater. Models that are based on flawed business and investment theses that don't account for macro external inputs. This is a life and death issue. We've solved the majority of scalability issues IoT by creating an intelligent, self-managing wireless network that can collect, send, and write data from billions of sensors and control points in near real time, even on battery power for 10 years. Every detail, from installation to integration, has been meticulously solved and engineered so that networks can be deployed without specialized skills or tools on a massive scale, reducing the total operating cost by several times over existing technologies. Our vast IP portfolio covers virtually every aspect of a smart building system. It connects buildings with occupants, energy storage, microgrids, energy systems, AI, and software. We have identified and piloted in 5 core use case applications that can be deployed on a service model basis, including AI-driven building control, office space utilization for hybrid workforce management, industrial machine and factory 4.0 monitoring, real-time data center SLAs, and high-value asset protection. Imagine if the Paris Notre Dame had just a couple hundred of our sensors installed. This priceless antiquity may not have burned down, saving billions in repair costs. The size and value of these markets is literally trillions of dollars, and we have the only solution to practically scale them. You cannot install power and infrastructure into a 1,000-year-old building or even a 10-year-old building. And you cannot wait 30 minutes or an hour to get the data because it will already be too late. We are establishing a $50 million investor now to offer these solutions as a pure service, requiring no customer investment, so they can be sold quickly and scale massively ahead of the market. Our exclusive technology, developed over 3.5 years on 20 years of field and R&D experience, is our advantage. We are the only company in the world with this. Although there are many incumbents, we have won all of our project and pilot bids to date because there simply are none which can perform critical real-time, two-way autonomous control on the edge without connecting to existing IT infrastructure. There are many use cases where this doesn't matter. However, as the world becomes more complex, renewable energy content increases in the grid, and big problems scale, there's simply no other way to address these challenges than in real time. Our sensors have proven 6 nines reliability, seconds of install time, and milliseconds of latency. This is what allows us to massively scale use cases where others will just hit walls and security blockers from CIOs and IT managers. The VECA EU-funded Smart City Innovation Project in Sweden will unlock the key to saving Europe by reducing heating gas consumption over 50%. When the results become published next spring, over 130 local schools will spend over €5 million to implement our solution. This model will serve the entire continent with an immediate market of well over $20 billion. We've gone through a long road to get to where we are today. Our business was deeply affected by the pandemic and is now finally roaring back with the huge social and economic pressures brought about by the same in our dysfunctional new world. We have enough knowledge from piloting to implement the 5 core use cases against the service model, and will quickly begin to address these markets. By mid-year, I expect our market position to show Connectric as the obvious solution and market leader, so we may responsibly take in a growth investment to strengthen our operations. Please reach out to me if you have contacts or resources in any of these sectors that may be interested in saving their businesses and out-preparing against their competitors in our volatile future. I would also be happy to discuss participation in our financing of this world-changing solution. Thank you for your time this morning.
Bill, thanks so much for that great presentation. It's been phenomenal having you as part of the network for the last couple of years now. Next up, I'd like to welcome Dr. Hanif Montazeri and Arshan Singh, the co-founders of Enersion. Originally from Toronto, Canada, Enersion opened up their first US office right here in San Diego to take advantage of the robust clean tech ecosystem we have here in California. They joined our network in April of this year, and they're currently raising a $3 million round. With that, the floor is theirs.
Hi everyone, I am Hanif Montazeri. I am co-founder and CEO of Enersion.
Hi, I'm Arshan Singh. I'm a co-founder and in charge of investor relations at Enersion.
We started Enersion in 2016 out of University of Toronto and MIT, and since then we have received so much support from different organizations, both in Canada and US. And over the last 5 years, we have invented a new type of chillers that uses heat to produce cooling. Just imagine your regular air conditioning system or chiller that you plug into electricity and it gives you cold air, or chiller gets plugged into hot water, surprisingly, and it produces cold air for you. The best part of our chiller is that it doesn't use any electricity technically, and basically saves on electricity costs, which is almost 50% of the summer electricity bills. At the same time, we don't use any synthesizing refrigerant in our chiller. It uses water in a closed loop system. We have around 30 patents on the technology. And then you might just wondering, how do I use a chiller that uses hot water in my building? So let's focus on the solar panel. A typical solar PV panel that you install in your home. Let's say yesterday you bought a Tesla. You decide to put a PV panel on your roof. You realize it maximum gives you around 20% electricity, and the remaining of the solar energy is not being provided. What happens to that? It warms up the solar panel, and then the heat dissipates away. Basically, you're throwing out the heat that is generated by the solar panel. Now, imagine Enersion trigeneration, in which we install PVT panels, which are a hybrid solar panel that gives you 20% electricity like the regular solar panels, but also collect the remaining thermal energy that is produced by solar energy in the form of hot water. The hot water gets converted into cooling thanks to Enersion patented technology. And then in the winter months or cooler months, that thermal energy would warm up the building. So you get electricity, cooling, and heating in one integrated package, and hence the name of trigeneration. So what do you get? You get 4 times more energy per square feet of your roof, and the payback period of the entire trigeneration of Enersion would be half of the payback of a regular PV panel. Why? Because they're significantly more efficient. How does the PVT panels look like? We simply purchase these PVT panels. We don't produce them. We purchase PVT panels. They look like a regular solar panels. This is a photo from one of our installation. The only difference is that there is a piping that goes through the PV panel and basically collect the thermal energy out of it. How does our technology look like beside a building? So it looks like a split box beside your building in the basement or on top of a roof, and it offers, the whole trigeneration offers up to 70% energy reduction for a building, simply because we are not throwing out around 70% of the waste heat that we explained. And the best part is that it's a true zero emission, because number one, it uses solar for entire operation of electricity and for cooling and heating. The second more important one is that we don't use any synthesized refrigerant or chiller, so there is no GHG emission for it. In case you're wondering how exactly the chiller works, we use nanoporous materials. Around 6 grams of our nanoporous materials have the same surface area as the entire football field. And because of that, we are replacing the mechanical compressor that is commonly used in the regular chillers with the nanoporous material that provides thermal compression. And then instead of using electricity to run the chiller, we use hot water that basically provides the energy of running the chiller.
So we completed a pilot test in 2019 at a data center in Toronto, and since then we have secured over 1 million in orders. And you might be wondering, where do we actually target this product? So we have strategically chosen commercial buildings because the energy loads of these buildings are such that the savings offered are significant, as well as the companies in this space are looking to green their buildings. So we make money using the energy as a service model. It's a very simple model in which we offer the equipment at no upfront cost to the customer, and from day one they start saving on their energy costs. Every year we take a portion of these energy savings for over 15 years, and we end up making 400% return on investment, which equates to around 11.5% annualized ROI. The total addressable market globally is around $200 billion, and in North America is around $26 billion just for the commercial spaces which we are targeting. And within this, we are looking at office buildings as the beachhead market. And a major reason for this is because energy costs for office buildings account for around 29% of operational costs. So our value to them is really significant.
We have raised close to $8.5 million as of now, all non-dilutive capital. And at this point, we are raising close to $3 million capital to be matched with other governmental grants. And that money is going to be consumed for establishing a marketing team to generate more sales lead and then streamlining our manufacturing assembly. We have a team of 10 people full-time at this point. And we are looking to expand the team as soon as possible because we are receiving a number of sales orders that we need to fulfill. Looking forward to your question, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a wonderful day.
Well, thanks so much, Hanif and Arshan. Great presentation, and we're looking forward to when we can finally get you guys down to San Diego. With that, I'd like to introduce our next presenter, a serial entrepreneur, Chad Wasselankov, and his company, Helicoid Industries. They joined our network in January of 2020 and are currently raising a $2.2 million financing round. With that, I'll give it to Chad.
Hi, I'm Chad Wasselankov, founder and CEO of Helicoid Industries. We have an innovative technology that will improve all composite performance. So if we look at the composite industry, it's very large at over $90 billion, and with rapid growth expected to be $160 billion by 2027. Some of the primary success drivers for that growth are its improved performance over other materials and its reduced weight. Some of its primary challenges are it is typically more expensive and it is not as recyclable as some other products. However, our Helicoid technology improves upon all of these. We help further drive these successful areas, as well as help to offset some of the challenges. If we look at our technology, and it is patented, we will be able to make all composites. So think about carbon fiber, fiberglass, Kevlar. We can make these lighter, stronger, more impact resistant, more durable, more sustainably, and all of this at an overall lower production cost. The inspiration behind this technology comes from nature. It was actually founded by researchers of this mantis shrimp, and it's evolved over hundreds of millions of years to become an incredibly efficient and incredibly tough organism. It has these two hammer-like clubs at the front that not only perform, but more importantly, survive incredible rapid underwater attacks. It actually boils the water, it goes so fast. The speed is faster than a 22 caliber bullet. It pulverizes its prey that it then eats, and it's the internal structure that provides this incredible protection. It's not the material. Scientists, and now our company, have emulated this internal architecture, applying it to composites, and are now commercializing it for the first time. So if we look at our architecture, and again, it's not the material, but it's this architecture. So it's sheets of parallel fibers, and then they're stacked upon each other, but each layer is rotated from the angle of the layer below. This creates the shape called the helicoid, and this allows all the benefits, and it's the energy dissipation, allowing it to be pushed further out rather than concentrating and damaging the material. We look at some of those benefits, and they are significant. So when comparing a helicoid architecture compared to what is currently the global leading architecture used in the aerospace industry, using the same material, the same manufacturing process, everything identical, just changing that architecture, we can improve the catastrophic failure by 74%, impact strength by 50%. We can increase the load bearing capacity by almost double, transverse load by 73%, more than 100% in plane surface delamination. That just means more energy dissipation for all kinds of applications. 20% residual compression strength even after an impact, and the through thickness damage is reduced by 50%. Looking at our business model, we're taking a two-prong effect. So we're planning to license our technology to various manufacturers. As well, we will work with material suppliers to integrate the helicoid to then sell those on to various industries. And our technology can improve or benefit tens of thousands of different products around the world. Some of the reasons for these advantages that going down this strategy, we can obtain faster and more diversified revenues. We get to collaborate rather than compete. So there's various industries with multi-billion-dollar companies that are dominating those spaces that we just don't want to compete with. We'd rather partner with them, utilize their sales channels and networks, and integrate our technology faster. We get to go after numerous industries for that diversification. We get to avoid multiple manufacturing facilities, which obviously would be very capital intensive. And again, we can reduce the overall cost. These customers can obtain the same performance using less raw material, and that cost savings means they can pay us a royalty while still improving their overall cost structure. We do have a large patent portfolio. The original base patent was granted to the regions, and we have the commercialization rights for those exclusively and globally. And since then, we filed numerous other additional patents that we own corporately. Looking at our short-term markets and our beachhead markets, obviously we're looking for areas where we can have faster penetration, quicker and less expensive prototyping, and generally less regulatory hurdles. These include wind turbine blades. They're currently facing a huge problem with the leading edge. This is due to erosion caused by wind, sand, hail, salt, things like that. It basically reduces the aerodynamics of the blade, losing power production. So for a small improvement, applying our helicoid to that leading edge to increase the protective nature of it, not dissimilar than that mantis shrimp, we can improve the overall electric efficiency and production of, as an example, a $14 million turbine, just with a small improvement. Early indications are, and testing has already demonstrated, over a 30% improvement. We have numerous prototyping and initiatives ongoing in the electric vehicle and pressure vessel automobile industries, and we hope to have revenues generated there within next year. Reducing the amount of weight in a vehicle will increase its battery life expectancy, which is obviously a primary driver for that industry. We also have numerous sporting goods initiatives ongoing, working with some of the global leaders, both in hockey sticks, tennis rackets, baseball bats, downhill skis, helmets, and various others. Just these three industries alone have, by 2025, are projected to do over 50 billion in composites, and we hope to be a part of that. Looking at our team, again, I'm the CEO and founder of the company. My background is more entrepreneurial, not in the composite space, but I've built over 30 companies, taken over a dozen companies public, had numerous exits over $100 million. Our CFO comes from Citibank, very strong experience there. Then the rest of the team is more industry specific. So Anthony Burt brings wind turbine and sporting goods experience. Michael Jansen, automobile and luggage experience, as well as some sporting goods. Doug McCarville was 35 years at Boeing. He's our chief technology officer. Mike in the middle, he brings automobile experience. Dana on the far right, again, more automobile and industrial experience. And then David Caselas was the lead inventor. He's on our board of directors. Lorenzo is our head of research and development, also aerospace, specializing in composites with the helicoid. And Anita does our marketing, communications, and back office support. Looking at where we're at now, we've currently raised $2.8 million at 50 cents to continue to grow our business and fulfill on our business plan. The plan always was to do a $5 million raise. So we have 2.2 million remaining at this 50-cent round, which is ongoing. Again, just some of the key takeaways. Our technology can make all composites lighter, stronger, more impact resistant, more durable, more sustainably, and at an overall lower production cost. The industry we're operating in, being composites, is huge and growing rapidly. And we have the team already in place for the success of this company. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Well, Chad, thanks so much for that great presentation. And I love that video of the mantis shrimp. I definitely would not want to run into one of those in the water. With that, and next up, I'd like to introduce our next two presenters, Alyssa Dugar and Mark Anderson of Icarus RT. Icarus joined our network in June of 2017, and they're currently raising a $1 million round. With that, the floor is yours.
My name is Alyssa Dugar, HR and Outreach Manager at Icarus RT Incorporated, where we take back the power of the sun. Today's solar systems only convert about 21% of the solar energy they absorb into electricity, wasting almost 80% of the sun's energy. And as panels heat up throughout the day, performance drops. Our award-winning proprietary technology breaks through the current efficiency limit, increasing power output of PV arrays, adding significant solar thermal production, and lowering the overall cost per kilowatt hour. We aim to change the game by increasing the power output at a lower cost per kilowatt, enhancing the ROI of solar PV, particularly for commercial and large utility scale installations, while giving solar energy a higher value proposition than ever before. I'll let our founder and CEO, Mark Anderson, tell you how our revolutionary Quartet hybrid solar technology works.
Thank you, Alyssa. Our hybrid system enables PV panels to produce 12 to 18% more power and generate hot water within the same footprint and at the same time. Now, Quartet provides hot water on demand, even after sunset. And hot water storage is clean, inexpensive, and it reduces the amount of lithium-ion mined for current battery technologies. In fact, Quartet charges the thermal battery while improving PV output. Traditional PV battery systems consume daytime PV output just to charge. This improves the value proposition to the end user by cutting the ROI in half. How? Well, we developed a heat extractor to remove heat from PV panels to improve power output and collect about 70% of the hot water that solar thermal panels can do per square foot. Now, others have tried and failed to do this since the 1970s.
At the same time, we developed a smart control system to manage the cooling and the heat absorbed by controlling the flow rate based on temperatures, power output, power demand, time of day, utility peak rates, and specifically that particular customer's unique situation, and many other factors, all in real time. We studied those long-shelved projects and optimized our design based on their challenges and new opportunities for us. For example, we use nanocoating to improve surface-to-water heat transfer, and we're exploring nanotubes to improve the heat conduction in very thin poly. We developed composite materials for the Icarus lightweight, highly effective yet low-cost heat extractor, and 3D printed prototypes, an option we only have for testing today. Finally, we are working with the Chemours company to test the new, very low global warming footprint and safe organic fluids, which were not even on the market a few years ago.
Our team is led by me, and I've worked in the power industry for 40 years. CTO Ron Pitt has been in the industry for 30 years. Both of us are entrepreneurs with prior experience as CEOs for engineering companies, and both have patents issued and/or pending. Jay Franklin, our head of business development, took his company from $2 million to $20 million. Now, I can't take the time to tell you about our entire team. Suffice it to say that each person has been carefully hand-selected and time-proven. Each member is talented and passionate about Icarus and the industry. In addition, our advisory board shown is comprised of industry and startup experts. And we've developed great relationships with corporate and industry sponsors. Our most laudable awards include the 2019 CalSeed Concept Award, the 2020 CalSeed Prototype Award, and the 2020 Shell Game Changer powered by NREL. Now, the 2021 Cal Testbed Program. Some of these provide non-dilutive funds, but others provide in-kind services. All of them provide mentorship, sponsorship, and strategic partnerships, which we've already reaped great benefits from. And we've worked closely with UCSD and SDSU engineering teams, and we've built our solar lab at the Engelkirk Structural Engineering facility of UCSD. There, we worked for 3.5 years modifying and testing many different versions of our heat extractor.
In the US alone, our SAM is over $13 billion. Last year, we pivoted to generate and store hot water as a simpler solution based on customer discovery and the full electrification movements in California and Colorado. Our beachhead market is in California multifamily housing. Quartet's value lies in the huge sustainability impact, which increases deployment. Financially, we improve the ROI of solar by reducing costs 50% compared to today's PV systems with lithium-ion batteries, which of course don't supply hot water. Environmentally, Quartet will save nearly 237 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year per 100 megawatts installed. This removes 1.8 million metric tons of carbon dioxide over a 5-year plan. All of that leads to cleaner air, better health, better jobs, and a higher quality of life, particularly in disadvantaged communities where our impact will be the greatest. Icarus forecasts installations totaling 5,000 kilowatt of new and retrofit solar systems in the first year of full production, beginning in 2022. In years 2 and 3, we project reaching 24,000 kilowatt installed in California alone. By 2024 and 2025, we will scale to 108,000 kilowatt and 480,000 kilowatt installed throughout the US and global markets. These assumptions are based on conservative projections of deployment as compared to the large value proposition of the increased efficiency using Icarus's technology.
And today, I'm proud to say that our system is ready for commercialization. The heat extractor is in prototype production today. Testing began October 1st, and results will be analyzed by Icarus and NREL for final fine-tuning and optimization before full production. Today, we are also very proud to announce a new $1.1 million grant from the California Energy Commission Bridge Program to install a $1.4 million 280 kilowatt Icarus system with 20 EV charging stations at the Chula Vista Police Department headquarters, pending CEC board approval. But just last week, we were notified that we've been selected to participate in the Halliburton Labs Scale Up program, which includes a $100,000 investment, and better than that, access to their 55,000 employees, including engineering and manufacturing, sales and marketing, supply chain and distribution networks, and even access to their customers around the world.
Right now, we're raising $1 million through our WeFunder crowdfunding campaign, and encourage you to look us up at wefunder.com/Icarus RT INC. The funds will be used for product certification, third-party validation, and commercialization, including sales and marketing, project management, and operations.
That's it. Thank you for watching and listening, and thanks again to the entire and amazing team here at Cleantech San Diego. But I call our team the greatest team in clean tech for good reason. This team is creating Icarus's novel Quartet technology, producing results beyond our expectations. I'll be glad to answer your questions.
Well, listen, Mark, thanks so much, and phenomenal pitch skills. Also, congratulations on all the recent success. With that, and next up, I'd like to introduce Jitin Apte, the co-founder of igrenEnergi. igrenEnergi joined our network in January of 2017, and they're currently closing a $500,000 bridge round. This will be followed up right after by a $6 million financing round. Over to you, Jitin.
More miles per dollar? How long should fleet vehicles be allowed to remain out of service because of long charging times? How many batteries will a fleet operator need to replace next month and the following month, and so on? These are some of the questions that are holding back mass adoption of electric mobility. My name is Jitin Apte, and my company, igrenEnergi, is bringing to market an innovation-packed digital battery solution to address these pain points and more. Be it range or charging time or long battery life, or the business needs of an e-mobility services provider, our digital battery solution makes e-mobility significantly more viable. This is made possible by innovations ranging from advanced power electronics through embedded intelligence to an ML layer of battery-aware business problem solvers at the very top. These patented innovations, and we have received 4 US patents already, can reduce fleet downtime by 50% and provide up to 25% more miles per dollar, as well as longer battery life. We offer our digital battery solution to e-mobility OEMs who want to integrate it into their custom-built batteries, and to makers of standalone e-mobility batteries and battery packs. The TAM, SAM, and SOM of our technology are $230 billion, $50 billion, and $7.5 or $8 billion respectively. These numbers are based on data from the International Energy Agency's Global EV Outlook 2021. Our market entry strategy is to focus on the emerging and underserved market of electric micro-mobility. This segment, which ranges from small food delivery robots through 2- and 3-wheelers and includes small 4-wheelers like golf carts, is experiencing rapid growth and vehicle innovation in markets stretching from Asia to Europe to the US. This growth is driven by new service offerings like food delivery and shared mobility, as well as a renewed focus on sustainable means of transportation. The OEM and battery makers in this segment are often new companies themselves and therefore much faster at decision making than traditional automotive OEMs. We have initially approached customers in Asia located close to our engineering team and have been received with tremendous enthusiasm. Having cut our teeth in that market, we are now looking to aggressively develop business in the US. When you look under the hood, we have a strong technology moat. A key differentiator is dynamic balancing, an entirely new way to balance batteries, which delivers performance akin to high-end e-vehicle batteries at the price of small, inexpensive micro-mobility batteries. Our claims of superior performance are based on extensive testing and benchmarking of batteries built using our technology over more than 100,000 miles. And our test results have been validated by Murata, a Japanese electronics and battery major. On top of dynamic balancing, we have built our ML layer, which provides accurate estimation, an absolute requirement for any good e-mobility battery, and support for optimization of numerous e-mobility business use cases. For example, battery inventory planning for fleets. Our solution is being enthusiastically received by the market. Murata, a Japanese manufacturing company, has partnered with us and are supporting us with hardware manufacturing and pack design. We have received our first purchase order worth $135,000 from IndiGrid, a manufacturer of micro-mobility packs. We are in various stages of engagement with a worldwide e-drivetrain maker and 2 Asian OEMs. All these customers are multi-billion-dollar businesses. And finally, we have signed a pilot with an e-mobility shared services company that operates a fleet of 200 electric golf carts in the US. We compete with independent BMS vendors, software as a service providers, and internal product development teams of OEMs. We win because our dynamic balancing and our analytics beat existing techniques in performance and price, and because of our very strong technology team, and finally, because of our flexible business approach of offering our technology in precisely the form that each customer wants. We have a very strong founding team of serial entrepreneurs who collectively cover all functional needs of a startup, including technology, business, and finance. We support a 30-person team, which consists of some of the absolute best engineers and business experts in the area of battery performance management. We are targeting aggressive growth of revenues and margins after Series A. The projections for the first 2 years are based on visible funnels. Our year 4 revenue target is approximately $200 million. We are imminently closing a $500,000 pre-Series A bridge round, which will be used to convert traction to revenue. Immediately after this bridge round, we will begin the process of raising a $6 million Series A round, which will be used to target revenue goals of the first 2 years. We have already received strong feelers from 1 or 2 investors interested in our Series A round. We are accelerated by Shell, E4, and by the Southern California Energy Innovation Network, and we have a strategic investment from Murata Manufacturing Company of Japan. Thank you.
Well, Jitin, thank you so much for that great presentation. And thank you to all of our presenters With that, I'd now like all of the presenters from our first round to please unmute and turn their video on so we can have our first Q&A session. Okay, so I am joined by Phil Kopp of Connectric. We've got Jit Napti of igrenEnergi, Chad from Helicoid, Ron Pitt, who's the CTO of Icarus RT, and then Dr. Hanif Montazari from Enersion. So I'm going to start with some individual questions, and if you could please keep your answers to around a minute, just so we have time to get through all of your questions. So we'll start with you, Phil. Can you tell me, with all the other wireless sensor offerings out there, attempting to address and solve the same issues you outlined in your presentation, what makes Connectric different?
Zach, again, thanks for having me this morning. Great question. And essentially, you have two problems that are preventing the scalability really of this sort of IoT data story that can enable a lot of really world-changing applications. And the two problems that we face typically are security, and that's a big one. And when you collect a lot of data about the physical environment and you send it up into the internet and you've got it transferring from one cloud to another cloud to another cloud, so that it can be consumed by analytics and business software, and in the very near future, artificial intelligence. Somebody has to secure all that data, and that task of securing, potentially millions or billions of sensors and all the data that they're creating, is a very daunting task. It's a lot of extra work for IT operations that they're not really equipped to be able to manage, and so we have sort of gotten around this problem and solved this problem because our networks are cloud independent. We essentially install our products as a private network, which really operates with no requirement to be connected to the cloud or the internet. And then we actually provide the customer with the flexibility to do whatever they want with the data. They can store it on site in a completely air-gapped, private way that's not connected to the internet, or they can send it to an analytics provider, and they can control where that data goes. And so fundamentally, it's a very secure environment that kind of gets around these IT department constraints. And in fact, none of our devices, our networks or gateways require even a single IT connection or IP address from the customer site. And that's really where the big barrier comes. We do everything over a secure cellular backhaul. So that completely independent network, completely independent data, completely under the control of the customer really makes that big leap. And then the second one is, how does it work over time, and how much work is needed to maintain that data. And whenever you install new devices into a building or a business, someone has to maintain them. It requires a lot of work to make sure that they're always operating. If something goes down, someone's got to go fix it or troubleshoot it. And if it's battery powered, someone has to go replace the batteries. And very typically what happens is, as soon as a battery dies in a battery powered device, it doesn't ever come back online again. And so our technology allows these battery powered devices to communicate for 10 years without maintenance. And because our networks are cloud independent and they're sort of autonomous and self-managing, they actually don't require any human intervention or human maintenance as well. So once they're installed, they will literally operate for 10 years without maintenance. And that makes a very big difference in terms of the quality of the outcome and achieving the ROI that the customer wants to achieve, and ultimately gets you to the scale where this makes a big impact. And those are the sort of two key problems that we address.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Phil. Let's go over to you next, Chad. So it seems like there's a real trend in the EV space and wind turbine space right now towards moving towards more environmentally friendly composites. Will Helicoid's technology work with this?
Yeah, no, great question. Obviously, one of the driving factors for both electric vehicles and wind turbines are that they're long-term, sustainable, environmentally friendly types of energy sources, and obviously not meant to be polluting. But at the same time, they do use a lot of composites that are not recyclable, typically in fiberglass and carbon fiber. So we've been doing a lot of work with flax, which is biodegradable, recyclable, renewable resource. And with that, unfortunately, it's not being adopted right now because it's not as strong as glass fiber. However, all our testing and results indicate that applying our helicoid technology to flax, we can now produce and provide the same performance as glass fiber. So we've already had 4 or 5 automobile manufacturers, parts manufacturers approach us to learn more. So this technology is just about to be officially launched within the next month by our company.
Fantastic. That's great to hear, Chad. Hanif, let's go over to you next. So with an increase of electrical dependencies in California, as an example, electric cars and phasing out certain fuels for power generation, how do you see this effect on the electrification of our city's infrastructure?
Hi, Zach. Thank you so much for the invite for this for presenting today. We believe at Enersion that the electrical cars and the electrification of the fleet is going to basically double the electricity consumption of our cities. And as a result of that, we think that electricity cost is going to increase because the demand is going to increase more and more for it. And I think the natural result of that increase would be people and organizations start adopting more distributed energy resources or DERs in different forms and factors. And I think, I guess we are hoping that Enersion tri-generation DER is become one of the choice of people because we are having 4 times more energy per square feet, basically offer 4 times more energy per square feet. And therefore we have half of the payback of most of them, including the solar panels. So I think that's hopefully we would be part of that puzzle of adopting more DERs. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Hanif. I appreciate that. Ron, let's go over to you next. So phenomenal momentum for Icarus RT lately. You know, you got the Halliburton Labs announcement and the CEC bridge announcement. What's next for Icarus? And you're muted still, Ron.
Sorry about that. I thought you unmuted me. Yeah, the easy answer to that question is more of the same, only faster. You know, we like everybody here were impacted by COVID-19. You know, initially the impact was because of facility shutdowns. I still haven't figured out a way to turn a virtual bolt with a virtual wrench, so we were impacted by some speed there. But our issues at this point are really hugely around supply chain and the amount of time it takes to get things and how much they cost. So we are very excited about our partnership with Halliburton Labs coming up and the ability to utilize hopefully their supply chain access and help speed some things up there. But between CalSeed, Cal Testbed, you know, Bridge, and the work that SCEIN is doing, and the Halliburton Labs and NREL and everybody we're working with, we just expect everything to speed up at this point and just get faster and faster. And we fully believe we'll be into commercialization by mid-late next year. At that point, we'll be rocking and rolling and installing commercial systems.
Well, it's great to hear. Thanks, Ron. Jitin, over to you. So with so many auto OEMs switching their portfolio of vehicles to electric, will customers have to buy batteries from igrenEnergi, or will your dynamic balancing system be able to adapt to the OEM battery packs?
Actually, that's a very interesting question, because one of the strengths of the way we do business is that we are very flexible in how we work with OEMs. So there's a hardware component and there's the intelligence in the software. We work closely with OEMs to integrate our hardware into their battery packs. We could, after that integration, we could license that design to them, or we could have a partner of ours like Murata manufacture it and deliver it to them. But having done that, the brains, the thinking part of the battery stack really comes from the software, which we distribute to every battery over the air, much like you know, you get your phone operating system upgrading every so often. So close interaction and flexibility for hardware integration and distribution of the brains of the battery using over the air kind of delivery. That's how we work with OEM customers.
Perfect. You know, I'm now going to open it up to some general questions. Again, I'm going to encourage the audience, if you have any questions for our presenters today, to please post them in the Q&A. In the meantime, I do have a couple other questions as well, just for the group. So, you know, what do you think separates clean tech startups from other tech startups per se? So let's start with Hanif, if we can go over to you.
I think, at least, I mean, maybe I could just talk about on my perspective. I think the green technology startups, a number of them have to be hardware. The only software solution is a bit difficult to we need software solution for optimization for sure. But I think generating, being the hardware piece is a must. And I think raising capital for truly hardware products is not going to be it's the same recipe that worked for the software companies. It doesn't necessarily work for the hardware company in terms of investment. And I think investors, we need some more innovation within the investment community regarding looking and building models that works for the hardware companies for them to make money, and also so that they could invest on the hardware startup companies for the green tech. That's kind of my observation so far.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Nathan. Chad, same question over to you. I know you've got a pretty hardware focused company, so if you could follow up on Hanif's answer, that'd be great.
Sure. I mean, from my perspective, I think the biggest benefit we get as being part of this clean tech environment is being able to attract really good world-class talent. You know, everyone wants to make a profit as a company, which is the same for all startups in any industry. But again, we are providing something positive to the environment, positive to the world, and giving back. And people really seem to are attracted by that opportunity. So if they're working in something that still, like we're in the composite space, so that we're able to attract these people that are maybe operating in less recyclable environments. And again, just by being able to offer that angle of giving some global improvement, again, we can attract better people.
Perfect. Thanks, Chad. So another question I have is, what's your message to all of the capital providers we have on the call today about investing in clean tech? Phil, we'll start with you, then we'll go over to Jitin.
So the message to investors, I think it kind of ties into a couple of the previous questions you just asked, which is how do we sort of build a formula that works for companies that are hardware intensive and have to deal with supply chains and manufacturing equipment? So for investors, I think, the question is, how do we build a strategic model that allows investment to come in the form of customers? And really, when you look at a hardware-centric business, whenever you have a significant customer, you can scale manufacturing, you can buy components for supply chain, you can sort of figure out how to deliver a solution for that customer. It's very hard to do in small chunks. And so the sort of pilot to scale model of doing a lot of small chunks is very capital and time intensive and difficult for a startup. And so what we need to do is we need to look for a bridge system that sort of ties capital together to customers. And those customers can bring that scale that's needed to really transform the fundamental economics of the hardware business. Our margins can be very, very high, and our companies can be very, very profitable at scale. But it's kind of getting from that first small scale step to a bigger scale step. And so I would look at the capital community, and when looking at sort of what is the recipe to scale clean tech and make it a successful business investment that gets a really great return for limited partners and the fund. It's how do you get to scale quickly? And the answer to that question is customers that are able to consume the product in a bigger scale. And so I think that strategic element is really critical.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Phil. And Jitin and Ron, we're running close on time, so I'll throw it over to you for the rapid round. If you just have any last thoughts on that question, you can keep it succinct, please, if you will.
Yeah, real quick. I mean, we've already jumped over one hurdle in the clean tech space. I've been doing this for a long time. When I started in solar in 1999, it was a niche industry. It was all very niche-y and just little pieces here and there. And to Philip's point, we've jumped into the mainstream now. And finding a way to aggregate those customers and make this mainstream market be a little bit more cohesive will help everybody start up more quickly because of all the reasons Philip just gave.
Got it. Thanks, Ron.
Quick answer from my side. I would tell investors to take a holistic view of returns. It takes a little longer to return your money, but if you look at the impact along with the returns on the money, it's a whole different ballgame.
Phenomenal answer. And I think that's a great note to end on. So that concludes our first panel today and all the presenters. I want to thank our five first presenting companies for phenomenal presentations, great answers. So I'll ask you now if you can mute again, turn off your videos. And I did see a couple of questions come up in the Q&A addressed to particular companies. So if you could please address those, that would be great as well. So moving into the second portion of our showcase today, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Nick Calvertson of Awkingspace. He joined our network in March of 2019. He's raising a $2 million round right now, and he's just been doing some phenomenal stuff lately. I'm going to let Nick tell more about that. So go ahead, Nick, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Hi everyone, I'm Nick Calvertson, CEO and founder of Aquacycle, and I'm excited to dive in today and talk a little bit more about what we've been building here. So I started Aquacycle when I was a junior and senior at UCSD. I just hated walking around campus and finding places that were too crowded for me. And so I built sensors that were able to anonymously and passively capture how many people were in a space. I made an app so I could see that data in real time. I launched the app, and in the first day, 5,700 students downloaded it. And the vice chancellor in charge of real estate called me up saying, we spend $1 billion a year in new construction, and we don't have a lot of data to drive those decisions. That seemed a little bit crazy to me. And I really started to understand that in the digital world, we have analytics for every app, every website to understand how many people are coming, how long are they staying, what are they clicking on, how can we optimize our website, our experience for whatever our goal is, conversion rate, customer experience, information transfer. But in the physical world, we don't have any of those analytics, and it makes it very hard to actually optimize for our goals because we don't have those analytics. And so that's what Occuspace is doing. We're focusing in the retail environment where brick and mortar is still 87% of all sales, but they have a big information deficit and need to innovate to understand how can we go away from the limited, lagging, distorted data that we make decisions on today to really always on analytics like e-commerce has, and understand visitors, dwell time, passerby traffic, conversion rate, and get to kind of the middle of the funnel where we have the top of the funnel, digital impressions and ad spend. We have the bottom of the funnel, POS data, but that middle of the funnel is still very blurry, and Occuspace is here to provide data for that. Some of the things that we can do is customer intelligence, employee intelligence, marketing intelligence, and actually tie occupancy data to real ROI. Where are people going in the store? How long are they spending there? What trends do we see in the marketing data and the sales data at different times and different busyness levels? When a grocery store gets really busy, transaction size plummets because people don't want to actually walk through the store. They just get what they need and go. What can we actually do about that? Where are employees spending time? What do we see with dwell time and conversion rate and passerby foot traffic with different employees on schedule, with different marketing campaigns going? That's all the different stuff that Occuspace is bringing to the table. We do this through our sensors today that capture how many people are in a space based on the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signals. And we do this with over 90% accuracy. We're able to be 10 times cheaper, 20 times easier to deploy, and be able to capture how many people are there, what's the dwell time, what's the heat map of where they're spending their time, how many people are walking by outside, and what percentage of those are coming inside, and a lot of other rich data that we're able to collect with these sensors. Now, eventually, sensors won't be our main part of our business. What we're really building is an AI intelligence platform to take occupancy data, to take external data like sales data, marketing data, HR data, and really generate insights and ROI for customers. I think that's what the occupancy data market is missing, is it's cool data, but how does it impact the bottom line? And that's what Occuspace is set to solve, specifically in the retail space. And we can capture foot traffic, walking pathways, dwell time, passerby traffic, customer employee interactions. Eventually that will all be commoditized. And we need to figure out how is Awkingspace going to generate not just the sensor data, not just capture that, but in 5 or 10 years, everybody will be able to capture that and it'll be everywhere. We want folks, even when they have other means of capturing the data, to have to put it into our system to actually use our AI to generate insights about what customer and employee trends and behaviors get to better conversion rates, better transaction size, better outcome for the business, and use our data for better operations intelligence. How can you optimize HVAC, energy consumption, staffing, cleaning, and integrate this into BAS systems, ad tech systems, insurance systems, and even more. We're only scratching the surface on the market size and the capability of what this data can do. It's already a $28 billion market, and people haven't even really figured out the real potential of occupancy data. We're going to win because we just have better data, better time to market, we're more affordable, and we have better AI than our competitors. A lot of our folks, our competitors like Shopper Track and Density, are using cameras. It's 10 to 25 times more expensive. You have to hire an electrician to do a professional install. And it's just not very scalable, and they actually don't collect very good data. They have a camera over the door, it counts in and out, but you're not getting that heat map, you're not getting the dwell time, the passerby foot traffic, the employee customer interactions, the real meat and potatoes of this data they're missing out on. Today we charge per sensor needed. Every sensor covers about 3,000 square feet of space. Eventually, as we do move away from using our own sensors to using other people's data, this will change to per square foot, per customer coming in, per employee, some kind of balance of all that. But today we have per sensor and we still hit about 85% gross margins. Company growth and go to market. We started out the company in universities at UCSD. We proved our concept there. We've launched well over a dozen universities now, and probably will close another 7 or 8 this quarter. And have really established ourselves there and proven the technology works and we can actually support it. But what we're really excited about is the growth in the retail space from strategic partners like Fusion 92, who's a 300-person ad tech company who's selling us to their customers and really walking us in the door of folks like T-Mobile and Verizon and Yesway and Albertsons and Academy Sports and a bunch of different customers that we're picking up pretty rapidly right now, and Joann's Fabrics. And seeing some really exciting use cases of what happens when we pair our data with sales data and marketing data, and what's the real ROI here. We're also working with folks like SRT Labs and Boston Properties solely on the use case of integrating our data into the BAS system and using demand control ventilation to reduce energy consumption 10 or 15% in these spaces. We're working on those partnerships with Boston Properties and also at universities like American University, University of Richmond, and hopefully pretty soon we'll be launching at the Exxon headquarters in Houston, which is somewhere around a 10 million square foot place, and we can save a lot of energy there. And that's a really exciting use case that is a big reason why we started the company. That use case has just drifted a little bit, but I'm excited to see customers getting more and more interested there. We have 12 full-time folks on our team, including our CTO, Nick Rouse, sold his measurement company to Nielsen, ran all digital engineering at Nielsen for 8 years, and a lot of other folks that are really accomplished, really smart, awesome, hardworking folks. Lucky to have this team on board. Currently, we're at about 540K in our ARR. We've raised $2 million to date. We're seeking another $2 million funding round, and we're spending about 120K in gross monthly burn. Looking forward to answering any questions and talking to folks more. Thanks.
Nick, thanks so much for that exciting presentation. And you know what? I wish Awkingspace was around when I was in university. It would have saved me a lot of steps. With that, I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Zora Chung, co-founder and CFO of ReJoule, who joined our network in April of this year. They are currently raising a $3.5 million round. Over to you, Zora.
Hi, I'm Zora Chung, the co-founder and CFO at ReJoule. Our mission is to maximize the value of every battery with our fast battery diagnostics platform. This may surprise you, but automakers don't have a good way of tracking the health of the batteries that power an electric vehicle or EV. We've interviewed 300 stakeholders across the automotive industry, and the one piece of information they wish they had was the battery state of health. Uncertainty around the battery state of health is driving $8,000 in unrealized sales from lower residual values and lost repurposing potential. ReJoule's diagnostic platform is a fast and easy to use health check, which includes proprietary hardware, software, and algorithms. Our system innovates on a proven technique to characterize batteries called electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, or EIS. We've designed our system to be modular so we can easily make updates for different battery designs and chemistries. Our IP strategy is a combination of patents and trade secrets. We have 2 patents pending and filed an international patent application for the hardware. We've raised over $4.8 million in non-dilutive funding, which has funded our research and development and helped de-risk our technology. We're working with UC Riverside, who is providing third-party testing to further de-risk the technology through the CalTestBed program. Our solution is best positioned to address the needs of the automotive industry because we're the only ones that offer fast and accurate test times for the high capacity and high voltage batteries used in EVs. While there are other solutions, they don't match all three important ReJoule benefits. OEMs monitor their batteries, but that data is directional and needs to be recalibrated against a more accurate benchmark. This benchmark can be cycling, which is to charge the battery up to 100% and then drain it down to 0. But this is really not scalable because it will take you hours to get one data point for one EV. Software-based solutions are scalable, but they leverage the existing crew data that OEMs currently gather. Furthermore, in order to train AI or machine learning models, you have to have tens of thousands of data points, which may not always be available for newer EV models or when there are tweaks to the battery's chemistry, which can happen quite often. Other hardware-based solutions leverage cutting-edge technologies that enable fast and accurate testing, but they are limited in their ability to scale up to automotive-grade batteries. This is no small feat. At ReJoule, our first prototype was proven with Nissan Leaf batteries, and since then, we've proven our technology on truck, bus, and forklift batteries. Our experiments with those vehicles and working with those OEMs inspired our latest offering for automakers. The product idea came from extensive interviews that highlighted a growing need for our diagnostic system. For example, automakers want to leverage our measurement as a benchmark at their service centers, where a battery diagnostic is as fast as an oil change. Fleets want to enable preventative maintenance to reduce unplanned downtime. And used car and ratings companies are seeking a new way to assess residual value of the batteries in EVs. We're in the process of converting these stakeholders into our early customers. I'll highlight just one example where the commercialization pathway aligns perfectly with our product roadmap. We have 2 projects pending with a major automaker. The first project is to help their subsidiary quickly assess the health of their used EV batteries for repurposing with our current tester. The second is a co-development project for our in-vehicle tester. There's a letter of intent in draft to use our product at their service centers. There's high interest from a few different automakers for this use case and eventually to embed our software technology into their battery systems. Ironically, we refer to our business model as GAS, grading as a service. Pricing will vary based on how many battery types will be tested and how many tests will be performed. Focusing on the number of tests versus simply selling the hardware aligns our price to the value we will be delivering. The size of the diagnostic market is driven by the number of EVs on the road. There are about 7 million EVs worldwide, with 1.7 million of those in the US. EVs still go in for maintenance twice a year, so if we charge the service center $150 per test, we're looking at a total potential TAM of 2.1 billion globally and 510 million in the US. Half of that opportunity is in California, where ReJoule is headquartered and already has strong existing relationships. Based on EV sales projections, we're estimating about 5 million EVs will be on the road in the US in 2025, more than double what it is today. This means in 4 years, this opportunity grows to 1.5 billion. We have done everything in-house with our diverse and talented team of engineers led by ReJoule CEO Stephen. He has a master's in electrical engineering from the University of Toronto and previously worked in the defense industry where he designed and tested military-grade power systems for Navy ships and submarines. He is a standard technical panel member on UL 1974, a battery repurposing certification standard, and is also serving as a technical member on a battery management system standard by CSA. He recruited me to lead the business side because I bring over a decade of experience in corporate finance where I optimize business models for sustainable growth. We are also supported by an amazing group of business advisors that bring experience in the automotive and battery industry, as well as experience in technology startups where they had to scale teams from less than 10 to hundreds. We plan to raise a $3.5 million seed round that will unlock an additional $500,000 in non-dilutive funding from the National Science Foundation. We've already secured soft commitments of almost $500,000 from friends and family. And the seed round will help us scale because we would be able to secure 24 months of runway until our Series A, create our patent portfolio, which will be important for our exit strategy, accelerate our product development from MVP to beta to meet customer needs as soon as possible, and launch a pilot to prove the value and gather data to add to our existing battery data set. We've already recruited partners that include a used car seller and an automotive data company, and we're in talks with a couple of major OEMs and fleet operators. Doing so will help us establish our first mover advantage in the diagnostic market. Thank you for your time, and I hope you will join us in our journey to maximize the value of every battery.
Great presentation, Zora, and congratulations to Stephen and yourself on all the recent success. With that, I'd like to introduce our final presenter of the day, Jonathan Knight, the founder of Uprise Energy. Uprise Energy joined our network in June of 2017 and are currently raising a $4 million round. Over to you, Jonathan.
Good morning. Jonathan with Uprise Energy here. You know, maybe at one of these presentations, we'll decide to run us in reverse alphabetical order so we could be at the beginning of the program instead of our typical cleanup spot. Nevertheless, I'm really excited to share this portable wind turbine project with you, and I think it's going to hold your attention. You know, I know that we all remember the Fukushima disaster. That was a pivotal point in my life. I was both mesmerized and terrified. But what it made very clear was that renewable energy was the way forward. And that was when I called up my partner and said, you know, we've got this history and experience in large wind energy. You're an expert in energy efficiency. How about we put our heads together and see if we can create something that the world needs that it doesn't already have? And we quickly decided that there had to be a smarter alternative to diesel generators for those that aren't connected to a power grid. Well, little did we know that when we came up with this vision just a few short years ago, here we would be today, and distributed renewable energy resources, exactly what we've created, would be the hottest topic in the energy space. And that's why we've formed a partnership with the US Department of Energy. In fact, just a couple of months ago, I towed one of our wind turbines from San Diego to the Idaho National Laboratory, where within minutes of arrival, we were up and flowing close to 10,000 watts into their grid. Now that power was being generated by the wind and flowing directly to the grid. However, had we shown up with our 200 kilowatt hours of batteries fully charged up, enough to keep my house running for a full month, we could have plugged right into it, had all the power we needed, and then just simply used the wind turbine and the optional solar to keep those batteries charged for uninterrupted power. And that's exactly the features that got us under contract with the California Energy Commission on their Moorbugs project, mobile renewable backup generators, where we're going to build 4 units to demonstrate their appropriateness for responding to emergency and public safety power shutoff situations. Now, in addition to the federal government and the state government, we're also working with the multinational agriculture business, the Wonderful Company, who's a parent to all of the well-known brands that you see on the screen. So you could say that we're taking a top-down approach, working with federal, state government, and multinational businesses in our go-to-market plan. But the fact that this large machine folds up and fits in a 20-foot shipping container is not only a testament to the good engineering behind it, but it also means that this system can be easily shipped anywhere in the world, which is very important because there's not a country on the planet that doesn't need this technology in one form or another. And we're actively talking with possible distribution partners in territories all around the world. And one of the most exciting things about this project is how scalable it is, because the materials that we use and the labor force that's required to build these units, they're commonly available. So that means that these systems can be built around the world proximate to where they're going to be used. Now, of course, we got to size up well against the competition. One, we are the only commercially sized portable wind turbine, but we produce power at a fraction of the cost of the diesel generator and even less than our utility rates. But the reality is today, with carbon tax and clean energy credits, one of these turbines could potentially pay for itself and thereby generate free electricity. Now, how do we achieve this? Well, we have best-in-class performance by a very considerable margin. And we do this with a number of proprietary features, but the one I want to highlight is what we call dancing with the wind. And what this means is the rotor on the turbine speeds up and slows down, matching changes in wind speed, maintaining an optimized tip speed ratio so that we can effectively capture the exponential power that is available in wind gusts. And what this does is it creates breakthrough energy density on our novel portable platform. Now, of course, we live in a data-driven society, and our wind turbine is a part of that smart future with a full data layer of communications, telemetry, and self-health analysis and control. So, as I mentioned, we have a background in big wind. My partner is a famous yacht builder, and we have been able to cherry pick an all-star team from our long history of business to come together and bring this product to market. So now that we have proven out the technology and determined that the market is even larger than what we originally expected, we are looking for a strategic partner to come in and allow us to accelerate the commercialization of our, not only our 10 kilowatt unit, but also take a number of other products that are still in the conceptual phase through development and into commercialization, so we can truly build a moat around this portable renewable energy system that we've developed, which is unquestionably the right product at the right time. Thank you very much. Look forward to answering your questions.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. Another great presentation, and thank you to Zora and Nick for great presentations as well. So we're now going to move into the second Q&A panel of the event. So Nick and Zora and Jonathan, if you could join us up on stage, and we'll jump right into it. So Nick, my first question is addressed to you. There's some really exciting markets that you addressed in your presentation, but I'd love to know what markets out there really excite you right now, or what future markets, what is Awkingspace looking at?
Yeah, a blessing and a curse with Aquaspace and occupancy data is that you can, I think, a really cool use cases in 20 different verticals. And a challenge has been to actually figure out where are we going to focus our attention for now. And so we've dabbled in 5, 6, 7 different verticals. And right now we're really focusing our efforts towards the retail and food and beverage space. That's what gets me the most excited. We found that determining ROI and measuring that in places where there's transactional data is easiest. The third vertical that really excites me is probably the office space vertical, where we're talking to more and more folks that are focusing on integrating our data into BAS systems and optimizing energy consumption with that.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Nick. I appreciate it. Zora, we'll go over to you. So this is such cool technology, and you can do it in 20 minutes. So I guess my next question is, how do interested parties get involved? When's this technology going to be ready?
Thanks, Zach. So yeah, right now, what we have commercially available, we can already test batteries that have either been removed from a vehicle or before they go into a vehicle. So basically outside of an existing system. So if you already have batteries at your warehouse, at your lab, that you want to get graded, the best way to just get started is just to send us a few samples, and then we can start calibrating our technology based on your battery specs. In terms of the next step, the 20-minute test where it is in vehicle, we are certainly recruiting for pilot partners right now. So we have a used car seller as well as an automotive data company that has already signed on board. Automakers would make great candidates because obviously the less that we have to figure out about the vehicle, the charging systems and the battery systems, the faster we can implement it. And we would love to have an automotive partner where we can actually have this at a service center or a battery center of excellence. The best way to get more information about that would, you can reach out to me directly. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Hopefully there's not that many Zora Chungs based in California that also run their own startup called ReJoule. But if you want, my email is also zora@rejoulenergy.com. And I will put that in the chat right now too.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Zora. And we'll go over to you, Jonathan. And certainly last but not least, we'll, you know what we will do, reverse alphabetical order next time just for you. So can you tell me a little bit more about, you know, all the testing and all the accomplishments you had out at Idaho National Labs?
Yeah, for sure. Well, to start with, you know, the Uprise Mobile Power Station is by far the largest portable renewable generator of any type. So the fact that we were able to tow our 10 kilowatt system with an ordinary pickup truck on US highways, and then within minutes of arrival, we were able to be up and flowing a lot of power into the grid. I mean, that was a historic accomplishment. You know, and to give that little frame of reference, the incumbent 10 kilowatt wind turbines would require a significant amount of site improvements and heavy equipment to set up the turbine. However, but before those sellers would actually sell you one of those turbines, they would require that you do a lengthy wind study at the site to make sure that there was adequate wind to justify the installation. So with our system being mobile, we don't have those same limitations, meaning we can follow the need, so move from job site to job site or to emergency situation, or we can follow the wind for seasonal changes. And so now there's also solar, which is also some sort of portable packages, but the energy density of solar is far lower than our wind system, meaning you'd need about 10 times the square footage of solar panels to match our output. So making it not really portable itself. So yeah, we had a very excellent experience up at INL, and you know, we definitely set some records in the process.
That's great news, Jonathan. And I did just see a question pop up in the chat from Hillary. And if you could just keep it to your answer to a minute so we can get on to some other questions as well. But for the last presenter, so that's you, Jonathan, can you say more about the use cases? Is the mobile wind/storage unit meant only as a backup generator during these outages, or can it also play in the wholesale market or help with reliability?
No, absolutely. This system produces reliable, cost-effective power. So it's an appropriate system for 24/7, 365 power generation with the flexibility of being able to be deployed to emergency or temporary power situations when and if needed. So
perfect.
I think yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So now I have a couple of general questions, and to the audience again, please post in the Q&A if you have any general questions as well. But we'll start with Nick, and then we'll go to Zora. When you're looking for investment, like what kind of capital providers have you been targeting? Are you looking at specifically clean tech capital providers? And then what are some of the advantages that come with that, if so?
Yeah, we've definitely ranged across a lot of different capital providers. And the stage that we're at, raising a $2 million round, is a little bit of that, you know, tweener stage where we have to find that institutional seed folks is really who we're targeting. And it's not always a big sea of those folks, and also angel investors. And so when we're looking at the institutional seed folks, we're targeting mostly clean tech folks and folks that have experience and connections in the retail space as well. And a big advantage to clean tech investors is, one, they can see our original vision of this really being a clean tech focused company. And two, they're oftentimes experienced with hardware companies. And as some of the folks in the first Q&A section answered, the timeline and availability for funding for hardware companies is sometimes a little bit tougher than just software. The hardware is hard for a reason, but when you're trying to do things that really impact the physical world and physical things in energy, a lot of times you need some kind of a hardware component. So we've really looked towards clean tech folks, and we have some clean tech investors, and hopefully we'll get some more of those soon.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nick. And Zora, same question over to you.
Yeah, I think Nick covered a lot of the key points. Most importantly, that hardware is hard. So we definitely are looking for investors that at least have had some experience with that and come with the understanding of some of the challenges. And I think in an ideal state, even have resources to support us, whether this even be another founder that they had supported so that they can help us foresee some of the almost inevitable roadblocks that we'll overcome. So at least we can plan for it a little bit better. I think the other piece is it might not be investors that are that technical or even focused on clean tech, but really focused in the automotive industry. There's a general trend now where all companies are trying to become more sustainable. So we can definitely support that. And where we are actually seeking help is finding the best market entry strategy, getting introductions to customers, because at the end of the day, selling to enterprises do take a long time. So how do we shorten that time and also make it very efficient and help find synergies right away? I think those would be the most beneficial, especially at the seed stage, because everything is new. And on top of that, the industry is changing a lot. So having some insider scoop can be helpful.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Zora. And, Jonathan, let's go over to you if you have some insight on that question. We are coming close to time, so if you could keep it short, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, we build a system that responds to a lot of pain points around the world. So if we could align ourselves with somebody that has a global presence and potentially manufacturing operations, I think what we're best at is our design and innovation. And so while we have a background in manufacturing, getting into high volume manufacturing is not where I think we're the best place for us to focus our efforts. It's in new innovation. So aligning with somebody that, and I think our technology is complementary to a lot of industries, both for use and, well, complementary to other technologies and a valuable technology for people to adopt for their own use cases. So it's pretty broad, but if we could find somebody strategic that would help with those topics, that would be great.
Perfect. Thanks, Jonathan. So with that, we're coming to the end of our 2 Q&A panels. So Zora, Jonathan, Nick, to our earlier 5 presenters, thank you so much. Your answers were fantastic. It was great having you present, and we'll be following up with the audience to send out this recording as well. So with that, I'm going to ask the 3 of you to please turn off your video and mute yourself again. And it is now my pleasure to turn it back over to my colleague and my mentor, Marty Turok, the Executive Director of the Southern California Energy Innovation Network.
All right, thanks, Zach, and thanks for the great job you did today in leading us through the presentations and Q&A segments. Of course, I'd like to thank all of our entrepreneurs for taking time out from your busy schedules to prepare and present these updates on the progress you've made and the plans that you have to commercialize these innovative technologies that are going to accelerate the achievement of our overriding goals of mitigating climate change and creating an inclusive green economy. I'd also like to thank Eric Stokes for sharing the CEC's vision for the next wave of energy innovations that are required to achieve the state's aggressive 100% renewables and zero net carbon targets. And most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you who joined us today, because the only way that we're going to achieve our mutual goals is for everyone who participated in today's event to take some new action as a result of whatever resonated most with you. I hope you got an appreciation for the breadth of new technologies that our SCEIN companies are bringing to market to help residential, commercial, and industrial electric ratepayers reduce their energy usage, reduce utility costs, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and improve grid resiliency while simultaneously creating economic development and job growth. Today's presenting companies offer products and services spanning 4 of our 5 priority electric energy technologies that address energy efficiency, renewables, generation, transportation electrification, and building decarbonization, 100% in alignment with the state's policy and incentives. In total, our 9 SCEIN companies are seeking to raise $35 million in capital. My ask of you is that if you or you know other investors who might be interested in investing in any of these companies, if you'll please forward the web link to the recording for this webinar that you're going to be receiving from us to your network so that either you or they can follow up directly with our entrepreneurs. Now, recognizing that as we're meeting here today, the COP26 conference is taking place in Glasgow, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't take the last couple minutes of this webinar to provide an update on why this issue of climate change is not an issue of the future, but an issue that must be addressed today and predominantly over the next 10 years in order to avoid the worst case scenarios that are forecast for 2050. So I'd like to do this with just 1 or 2 slides that address each of the topics that I spoke about in my opening remarks to last year's 3 showcase events. With regard to climate science, on August 9th, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Science issued the 6th assessment report, the first update in a decade, and there was 100% concurrence from the over 50,000 authors and reviewers that human-made warming is unequivocal. Specifically, emissions of greenhouse gases from human activities are already responsible for 1.1 degrees of warming, and unless deep emissions reductions are not achieved in the next few decades, global warming of 1.5 to 2 degrees C will be exceeded. In terms of climate impacts and opportunities, a Washington Post article on September 4th noted that during the previous 3 months of this past summer, nearly 1 in 3 Americans live in a county that was hit by a weather disaster based on their analysis of the federal disaster declarations. And just last week, the bomb cyclone that hit the West Coast, the tornadoes that swept across the Midwest, and the nor'easter that blasted the East Coast probably impacted 20% of counties in just last week. And finally, with regard to climate equity, clearly the biggest opportunity in our 4-county geography is the CEC's Lithium Valley Initiative that SCEIN member company Controlled Thermal Resources is at the epicenter of in Imperial County, one of the most underserved counties in the state. Controlled Thermal Resources is combining their core competency in geothermal energy with state-of-the-art lithium extraction technology to build a project that would provide both clean geothermal energy and zero carbon lithium extraction to produce EV battery grade lithium for the US automotive and storage industries. This project, which will create 400 construction jobs and over 1,400 clean energy careers, got a big boost in July when General Motors signed a strategic partnership to source their US lithium from the CTR project. And I'm also pleased to report that SCEIN partner, San Diego State University, has submitted a proposal to the EDA's Build Back Regional Challenge to create an Imperial Valley Advanced Manufacturing Hub. So I'm pretty confident that I can already tell you that the biggest takeaway from COP26 will be that the only way to keep surface warming below 1.5 degrees C is if we make the boldest changes over the next 10 years so that we'll actually benefit from the GHG reduction of those decarbonization measures during the 2030s and 40s. And by the way, Mayor Todd Gloria is representing San Diego at the COP meeting for the first time this year. So if you are in our audience today, then you're probably already a concerned stakeholder. So we invite you to help support our SCEIN entrepreneurs by joining our technical advisory committee, becoming a mentor, hosting a field pilot, or perhaps even investing. You're welcome to contact me, Zach Dobbin, and our new SCEIN program manager, Natalie Toon, who joined us in September to expand our capacity to continue to support the next wave of entrepreneurs with breakthrough energy technologies. So one final word of thanks to our presenting entrepreneurs. You will also be receiving their contact information again in the follow-up email that we'll be sending to you so that you can contact them directly. And finally, I'd like to thank our Cleantech San Diego leader, Jason Anderson, for really leveraging the synergies between our SCEIN innovation companies and our 120 plus Cleantech San Diego member companies to accelerate the San Diego region's achievement of a vibrant, inclusive green economy. So thanks everybody for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.